Have you ever experienced a dramatic event in your life that affected you profoundly? So profoundly, in fact, that it completely changed your life? Think about this for a moment. While you were going through this very difficult time, you're probably thinking to yourself, how can I get out of this? You prayed and hoped and trust that it'll all go away. And yes, in time, it does go away. Things do get better. You move forward with life again. You see, beyond the darkness in your life is the light on the other side. Sometimes we focus too much on the darkness. We focus too much on the pain, on the struggles, on the sufferings, that we forget to focus on the light. Keep in mind that the struggles and pain we experience in our life helps us to grow in resilience. Our ability to overcome hardships and diversity in our own personal life. In these past several weeks, I've been getting a lot of emails and text messages from many people and friends. Some of the messages are very informative. Some of the messages are filled with hope. And unfortunately, too, some of the messages do the opposite. They're very negative. And surely those who read the negative messages, it'll make them feel bad too. Examples are like, well, the world's ending, we're all going to die, time to just go buy everything, become a hoarder, this will continue on for a long time, etc. Here, I'd like to share 7 important points, 7, about how we should focus on the things that we can control in our lives, things that we have direct control over. You see, it's important for us to focus our energies in these areas rather than on things that are beyond our control. So here is an important question to ask. Is what I'm thinking about beyond my control? Now, you also have to be honest about it as well. The problem with thinking and focusing on what is beyond your control is that you put so much energy into it that you end up feeling tired. You feel depressed. You feel like you have no energy to do anything else. And this is a big problem because by spending energy on what we cannot control, we end up not having enough energy to focus on the things that we can control. So that's something very important for all of us to keep in mind. So here I'd like to go over 7 important points, 7 important things I'd like to share that will help us to focus on the things that we can control. Number one, stop watching the news every minute. Maybe right now we have a lot of free time and we don't know what to do with all that extra time. So we turn on the TV and watch the news. And as a result of hearing all the negativity in the news, we feel sad and depressed. Instead of doing this, how about reading or watching the news in the morning, maybe for like 20, 30 minutes, and then tune it out the rest of the day? Well, unless, of course, your job directly relates to news and media. But instead of watching every minute of the news and then reacting to it, it's better that we just let it go. Of course, we need to stay in touch, know what's going on in the world. But then at the same time, we don't need to focus on that every moment of every day. You see, if we keep reading like every single news, minute by minute, we're going to be reacting to these news. And generally, it's bad news that we react to, not the good news. And then in effect, it ends up affecting our emotional health. And next thing, we feel like we're in a bad mood, and then, we get mad, etc. So best to avoid all of this. Turn out the negativity and the noise, and then do something productive instead. Point number 2, focus on controlling your emotional health. One of the things that we all need to do is just to stop focusing on fear. Stop focusing on being so afraid all the time. Some of us, we always ask, well, what happens if X happens? Or what happens if Y happens? And what if this? And what if that? And what if, etc. See, instead, take a deep breath and know that the world is not going to end. Read a book you like, smile, laugh, do fun things. In the next several weeks, I'd like to focus more on this related topic on emotional health. It's a very broad topic, and I can go on and on and on about it. But in a nutshell, emotional health is where you focus on your emotions, how you respond to external circumstances that arise in your life. And having good emotional health is really important to staying happy and to staying sane, especially in these challenging times. Emotional health doesn't mean that you're always happy or free from negativity or negative problems. Instead, it's the ability to be able to manage your emotions in your own daily life. Okay? So that's number 2. Focus on controlling your emotional health. Moving on, number 3. With the control of emotional health, we turn to focusing on our physical health. You see, physical health is so important as well. We all know that. Without physical health, we can't do anything, right? So in times like these, take advantage of your free time and take care of your body and your health. Go get a good amount of exercise. Go for a walk around the block, for example, because exercise is always good. It makes you feel good, and it also builds up your immune system. You see, exercise is very important for your physical health. It also takes discipline to make a commitment every day saying that I will take care of my body. You know what's important? You know why it's so important for us to take care of our body? Because if we get sick, guess what? Our body will have the capacity to be able to fight against the disease. That's the important thing. So the problem I see with a lot of people is that they don't take care of their physical health. They eat unhealthy food, they drink an excessive amount of alcohol, sometimes use drugs they're not supposed to be using. They damage their body. And for these people, when they face an illness in their life, it's much harder to overcome because they have not properly taken care of their own body. Okay, moving on to point number 4. Stop comparing yourself to others and focus on your particular situation. Not on your neighbor's problem or on your spouse's situation or your children's situation or a friend's situation. Focus on your current issue right now. You see, sometimes we focus so much on other people's problems, we forget to focus on our own problem, and we want to control their problem while we have direct control to our own problems. But the irony is we want to change other people's problem. That's where the complication is. So the bigger problem I see with a lot of people is they say this, well, I'm going through a tough time right now, but I'm happy because my neighbor next door, he's having a time worse than mine, right? Poor guy, he's suffering. I'm happier because I'm doing better than him. Or sometimes I see the reverse, right? People say, well, I am so sad. I'm so sad because my neighbor is doing so well and I'm not doing so well. You see, the problem is clear. It's so important for us to stop comparing ourselves to others. And instead of focusing on other people's problems, because we don't have control over that, we should focus on our own problems because we have control over that. Okay? That's point number 4. Let's move on. Point number 5. Be honest about your particular situation and face it. In my own life experience, I've seen 2 things. People who cannot be honest with themselves or with others. They refuse to acknowledge the problems in their life. They pretend that if they don't acknowledge the problem, it therefore doesn't exist. And this is clearly wrong. By not being honest with ourselves, by continuing to deny the problems in our life, we make it worse. Now, there are others who may acknowledge the problems that they have in their life, but they refuse to deal with the problems. They will do whatever it takes to avoid dealing with their problems. They will pretend they're busy, and they keep busy, and they keep doing busy things so that they don't ever have to deal with the problems. For some, they deal with the problem by turning to bad vices like drinking, drugs related problem to ease the pain, so to speak. Now, those who deal with the problems in these ways actually end up making the situation worse, sometimes much, much worse. And so here it's important for us to be honest about our particular situation and to face it. And if we need encouragement, if we need help, maybe we can turn to that friend or that family member or that person who's always been supportive of us and ask them to help us, at least emotionally, right? To help us to overcome these challenging problems that we face in our lives. Okay, let's move on. Point number 6, trust and have faith. This is actually another area we can control as well. You see, it's important for us to spend some time in prayer, spend some time in meditation and reflection. And, for me, in my own experience, talking to a lot of people out in the world today, sometimes we become so materialistic that we forget about spirituality. We run around acting very busy and saying, well, you know what, I have to make more money. I have to make more, be more productive. I have to buy more things. And we know that those things don't make us happy. And instead of doing all these things, it's important for us in the busyness of our lives just to take a step back and to truly focus on what's most important. And surely what's most important is reflecting on our spirituality, on our faith, right? On our relationship with God. In times like these, we want to interiorize and spiritualize our life to focus what is of greatest value to us. And when we can set our sights on our faith, and if it's a rock solid faith, then of course we can overcome these challenging times. Otherwise, we turn out into the world and we see all these things going on. We see all these bad news and it makes us feel sad. And, there's that chain reaction. So in times like these, we must learn to trust and to have faith. And this is something you can control. You can control saying, well, I'm going to spend some time in prayer and meditation, and it'll help me to find inner peace, especially in my life in these times. All right, so that's something to consider. That's point number 6. And finally, moving on to point number 7, and the final point I like to make is to focus on what is most important to you right now. Sometimes we are so focused on the day-to-day situation of our life that we forget to take a step back and evaluate what is most important to us. And as a result of doing this, we become reactionary to all the events, problems, activities that go on throughout the day. I encourage you to consider this. At the very end of our lives is not really about the achievements we have made in life. It's not about the greatness we accomplish in this world or how busy we've lived our life. Instead, it's about how we use our time for others, how we give of ourselves to others and to God as well. So, Jesus tells us very clearly, whatever you did for one of these least brothers of mine, you did it for me. It's something for us to consider. The greatest commandment, right? Love God and love your neighbor. And if we just reflect on this point a little bit more and realize that we have control over this, that we can choose positivity, we can choose love, we can choose to love and to support others and to build them up. Those things are very important. And then also as well too, encourage you, especially in these times, to spend time with your family, spend time with your loved ones. It makes sense, especially right now, since we have a lot of free time to do that. So here's something I find fascinating. When talking to, those who are older, they share with me the various regrets that they experience in life, right? And some of these people too, keep in mind, they've built careers, they've made a lot of money, they have a lot of material wealth. And, when you talk to them, for me, when I talk to them, and I ask, we talk about many different things. They say, well, if there's one thing I wish I'd spend more time with my family and more quality time with my family. So here I propose to all of you, take this time, spend quality time with those you love. Stay safe, and may God bless you.